And before we continue with today's session, it is so important that we do an acknowledgement of traditional lands. Royal Roads University acknowledges that the campus is located on the traditional lands of the Esquimalt and the Songhees ancestors and families. It is with gratitude that we now learn and work here, where the past, the present, and the future of Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, staff, and faculty come together. Welcome to today's session. So it's the MBA in Executive Management, and I'm so pleased to welcome Dr. Charles Krusekopf, the program head of the MBA. And I'm also so pleased to welcome Dr. Hope Sanderson, who is an MBA grad from the class of 2003 and is also an associate faculty. Welcome, Hope.
Morning.
And my name is Emara Angus, and I'm an education advisor here. We also have a team of enrollment advisors, Tracy and Kelsey, on the call, so they'll be monitoring the chat, supporting your questions. We also have Selena here too. She is going to be supporting any tech difficulties. So if you have any tech difficulties, you can direct message Selena. So today's agenda, welcome and get to know one another. I know that's what we're doing right now. We have a really quick poll for you too. So if you can have a look up at your screen, I'm going to launch the poll right now. So you'll see the poll question is, which MBA program delivery are you interested in? And you can select all that apply. So we have the MBA on campus, we have the MBA blended, which is a combo of online and residency, and we have the not sure yet feature. And that's totally okay if that's why you're here. It's to determine which one is the best fit for you. We just wanted to get a feel for the room. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds here and then I will end the poll. Okay, cast your answer. I'm going to share the results because it's always cool to see who's in the room. So you have about 38% of the people here are interested in the MBA on campus, 63% are interested in the MBA blended, and 13% are not sure yet. Thank you so much for responding to that. Okay, we're also going to have a brief overview of the Royal Roads University experience today. We'll go through program information. We're going to hear from our MBA grad, Hope Sanderson. We're going to go through the application process and requirements. And as I mentioned, questions answered throughout, so feel welcome to pop them into the chat. Our location, so here in Victoria, British Columbia, as I mentioned, that's where I'm currently residing. Victoria, BC, we are located in Canada, which is a population of 37 million, but Vancouver Island is a lot smaller. But just because it's small, we're located to a lot of close, large cities, such as Vancouver and Seattle. And Victoria really is a bustling place. We have a great industry of our technology industry here is booming, our tourism and hospitality and our education. And we're one of the mildest climates in Canada. So any time of the year, you can go for a hike or a walk or a bike ride. We're close to the ocean. It's a beautiful place to be. So here are some images of our space. The top left is actually Hatley Castle. That's on campus. You can actually test out the reactions feature again right now and give me a thumbs up if you recognize Hatley Castle from movies such as Deadman or X-Pool. Or, nope, I said that totally wrong. X-Men or Deadpool. There we go. Give me a thumbs up if you recognize that. Whoa, I almost didn't catch myself on that. And then on the top right, we have a picture of a bridge in our beautiful campus gardens. The campus is there's so many places to hike. There's so many hiking trails and gardens to walk through. It's really a beautiful place. And on the bottom left is the Esquimalt Lagoon. Our campus actually overlooks the lagoon. And the bottom right is just to depict that we are really familiar with teaching online. We've been online for over 25 years. And the questions that many people are probably wondering is, why explore Royal Roads University? And this is a bit more about us. We see life as a qualification here, and we demonstrate that through our flexible admission. We see that every single person here is coming through a different career path and a background, and we honor that with our admission policy. And we also really believe in first names first. So profs who know your name, we want to know who you are, and you're more than just a student number to us here at Royal Roads. And learning based on life. We really believe that there's no division between the classroom and your work. It's all integrated. And we really believe in the cohort model. So you're making connections and you're building a network for life. And I know Hope will be talking more about the connections that she's made in her cohort as well later on. We were just really built differently here at Royal Roads University, and we're going to be talking more about that. And Royal Roads is also an Ashoka U Changemaker education, and it's an innovative approach to education that prepares students as they address the world's problems, encourage others, and act for the good of all. And now I'm so pleased to welcome up Charles, who will be talking about the program structure of the MBA. Welcome, Charles.
Hello to everyone. Greetings from Metchosin, British Columbia, which is just near to the campus, which is in Colwood, on the edge of Victoria. So I'm on the traditional territories of the Tianu and Suk First Nations here on the west side of Victoria. And so glad to be joining my colleague, Hope Sanderson, who's going to be speaking a bit later, who's both a alum and then also working with me on some program development work as well that we can talk about later. But so I'm going to go over the basic program structure for our current programs and discuss those and some of the different aspects you might consider about our programs. So first, our base program, no matter which version of the program in a way you take, is 51 credits, meaning there's 14 classes in what we have the Organizational Management Project. I think it had a little different name when Hope did it, but maybe she can talk a little bit about her work on that project. But it's an applied business project that you do for a client or a sponsor organization as a research project during the program. So our program is designed so that you can complete it in roughly 18 months if you move through the courses and with your cohort where you're taking 2 courses online at a time, or if you want to move through at a bit slower pace, you can take just 1 course online at a time, and that takes you then a bit longer, or about 31 months to finish the program. We have both our blended offering where you come for 2 residencies. The first residency is about 3 weeks on campus and then 2.5 weeks for the second residency. And in between those, you would be taking classes online. We have our on-campus program where you take more classes on campus for about 12 months. And then you also take some online classes together with the blended students to do your specializations or to work on your OMP and other things. So it gives you some freedom as well to in terms of your work and different things while you're completing even the on-campus program. The students in our programs are in our blended program, which has been running now for more than 20 years, usually are working full-time while they're completing the program. It's quite possible to do that. That's expected. All the other students in the program are traditionally working full-time while they take the program. The on-campus program is designed to meet the Canadian requirements around the work authorization, postgraduate work permit, which our colleagues can talk more about if people have questions about that. But in that program, then it's considered a full-time on-campus program to meet the requirements to get the postgraduate work permit. And I believe international students would be able to work up to 20 hours a week during that program. So you would have a number of classes each week on campus at our campus in Colwood. Now, our residencies, our whole program, like for all universities pretty much, have been online for the since last March. And so we're just finishing up a couple of residencies we ran this summer. We had one where our students in both of these residencies were online, but in January, starting in January, we're expecting to be back on campus for the residencies. And then our on-campus program will launch. It launches online in August, and then for some preliminary work, and then you come on campus in September. Next slide, please. So just going over and sort of what makes our program different and stand out. I mean, really, our program focus is a lot on your personal and professional development. So thinking about you and your role within your organization. So almost everyone in our organizations, in our programs, are leaders within their organizations. They have significant management experience. We say at least 7 years of work experience post-graduation. Most people have more than that. I think the average age in our blended program is in the late 30s, early 40. And so people have often 15, sometimes 20 years of work experience that they're bringing to the program. And then we ask that people have some management experience in that you've managed people, you've managed projects, you've managed budgets, at least one of those in your career. And typically people are moving up through an organization or moving up in their roles with different organizations. And I use organization because I would say about half of our students work not necessarily for companies, but for governments, for nonprofits, for schools, and those sorts of roles. So really organizational roles. And our program is really built around enhancing your personal leadership characteristics and enhancing your personal knowledge and ability as you step, as you know, when you step into these management roles, you're often leaving something that maybe is a bit more technical or a bit more narrow, and then moving into a role where you're managing people, you're managing budgets, you're having to come to meetings, present ideas, work with a whole team. And so that's really many of the things that our program is built around, not just the curriculum and the instructors in the program that are leading that, but it's really your cohort as well, because you're going to be with 30 or 40 mid-career professionals who are in a similar situation to yourself. So therefore, you're all going to be working together and learning from each other and really building off of each other through your teamwork, through the other exercises and things that you have. So that, I think, is really what sets our program apart, because we have, in a way, a very significant amount of work experience required to come into the program. Then that really helps build a strong cohort and a strong sort of knowledge and learning environment that really, really helps you. And people say, and again, I'll let Hope, our graduate, to talk to this, but you're both learning and applying things as you go through the program, and then building this cohort and this knowledge that then supports you long after you leave the direct program, because you'll stay in touch with people, you'll still be able to tap into those networks and the people that you've gotten to know. Next slide, please. So this just is referring to this idea of you can take the program. So in a number of people and people, this is related to the blended program, and people wonder, am I able to? I'm questioning. I'm not sure if I'm able to come back and take the program. Am I going to have time? I've got work. I've got my family. I'm juggling all of these different things. We can connect you with our current students, our alumni, who can talk to their own experience in this. We can say that, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can make it work. I always laugh about, if you want to get something done, go to someone who's busy, because they're busy, because they're getting a lot of things done, and they find ways to get things done, even if they're adding something new, like adding this program to what you have to do. Now, it does take a significant amount of time. You have to ask for forgiveness and support from your family, from those around you, from work, in terms of structuring your life so that you're able to complete the program. But it's very possible. We have very high completion rates. Once people enter the program, you get in that cohort, your team is supporting you, your instructors are supporting you. We really try to work with you where you're at and in that situation to help you be successful in the program. So in terms of the 18-month program, everyone will do the first residency period together. And then the 18-month program, you're typically doing 2 online classes at a time. And that sounds like a really heavy load, but we really work to balance those two. We try to make sure that they don't both have a big project due on the same day. They don't have sessions scheduled. So we have typically a class has maybe every other week has a synchronous, we say live online session where the instructor is presenting. We try to make sure that there's not conflicts in the way that those things are scheduled. So even though there's 2 classes, there's some overlap and some coordination between those classes so that you're able to complete those 2 classes. And they work in 9-week blocks, these different classes. When you're doing the 31-month program, you would just be taking one of the 2 classes. So basically then 12 months later, when the class is offered again, you would take the other class. And so you're always kind of working in tandem and working through the program. It's just at a bit slower pace. I can say, we have a few more people taking the 18-month program. People ask, if I start the 18-month program and it's just too much, can I drop back? Say, absolutely. Again, because of the scheduling of the classes, that just means you drop back, and we'll set up a schedule so that you finish out those classes you haven't finished. So we're able to be flexible and adjust to make the program work for you and your time commitment and your ability to work with the program. So just think of it as same program. 31 months just spreads the classes out a bit more. 18 months is a bit more intense, bit of the sprint you want to get through. And again, almost everyone who commits to that actually gets through and gets completed. Next slide, please. The on-campus program. So this is something, a new program Royal Roads has been running for several years, our Master of Global Management program with an on-campus master's offering. And so that program has been so successful. And my own focus is in the area of international business. And I really was interested in helping to develop this on-campus program for our MBA, which would create a pathway that makes it easier for international students to join our program and to qualify for the postgraduate work permit. We have had a few international students or Canadians who are living and working abroad participate in our blended program, but then there can be some challenges in recognition in many countries for different organizations, governments, recognition sometimes of online programs completed abroad. So the big emphasis for international students is often on having an on-campus option. And 2/3 of MBA students across Canada are in on-campus programs as well. So there's a lot of domestic interest students who are interested in doing an on-campus version. So what we're doing is we're launching our on-campus program this coming fall. And you would have about 4 to 6 weeks, I forget the exact schedule, online, where you're doing some prep work, you're getting into your classes. We have a writing class that you'll be working on, getting ready to come, and then you come on campus, we'll have an orientation, and then start the classes, and you'll have class sessions each week on campus. So it follows the same curriculum as the blended program. It's just the delivery is a little bit different. And there are several places in which the students from the on-campus program and the blended program, through some courses that we'll be designing and offering, which will mix students, and a residency, you'll participate in the same second residency together with the blended students as well. And we're going to be working very much with those students who are doing this on-campus program because we'll have more time. It's one of our challenges with the blended program. Of course, you're here on campus for a short, intense kind of, we always say it's like camp. You come on campus for 3 weeks. We see you, we work with you very intensely, and then you go back to Edmonton, you go back to Squamish, wherever you're living while you're taking the online classes. So we're still in touch. The cohort's still very much working together. We still do a lot of teamwork online because you're moving through those classes with your cohort. But you're not face-to-face. When you're face-to-face, when you're on the campus, you'll be able to participate more. We'll have a number of speakers and other things that we'll try to have a number of activities and work with you very much, working with you on campus where we can actually all interact regularly on campus. There are also the chances to do different study exchanges with partner universities. I mean, this is true of the blended program as well, but in the blended program, because students are working full-time, it's often a bit challenging. You'll see we talk a little bit about specializations, and I work with the international specializations. We do have the opportunity to go for a 2-week program in France, or a 2-week program that I lead when we go to Asia. When we can all travel again, we're hoping in 2022 that those short study exchanges that we've had for the blended program and will be continuing. And then we also are looking at doing some semester-long, some term-long study exchanges with partner universities abroad, if that's something of interest to you. So the on-campus program is we've already had a number of applicants, very much mid-career professionals from around the world, from different countries, all over the world. A very, very interesting group. So looking forward to launching this on-campus program and welcoming in a new group of students. Okay, next slide. So some of the aspects of the program, and again, we'll get Hope, our alum, to talk about some of these and her experience. The Organizational Management Project, the OMP, is this business research project that you conduct for a client company. It can be your own organization, or it can be an organization that you reach out to and you conduct a project. Sometimes people, people use our program in different ways. Sometimes it's to move up in your current organization or your current career path. Sometimes people want to switch. They say, okay, I've been working in one particular industry and I want to switch. So the OMP is a way that you can take on a project, as I say, within your own organization, your own industry, that sort of stretches you and advances you and your knowledge and your research skills in that area. Or you can try something new or something different. So maybe I want to move to a new role in my organization, or a new role for a different organization. So I could use the OMP to gain some new skills or to connect with some new organizations that allow me to potentially make that move. So the OMP really can serve a number of different projects. One of the things there is research, and people talk about gaining those research skills and then bringing those research skills back to their organizations. So as they said before, you often have meetings, you have to advocate for your department or for an idea that you have. Having the research skills, going through the research process, really helps you in those meetings to say, okay, I'm going to do some research, I'm going to pull some information together. It greatly strengthens my ability to make the case for an idea that I bring forward. That research skills is part of what you gain out of this MBA program and the work that you do. In our second residency, we always do this live business challenge. We do have some companies who come in the first residency as well and present, and then you present back to the company. But the second residency is really built around a live business challenge where companies come in, they present where they're at as a company, some of the things that they're working on, and teams of our students do an internal and external analysis on the company and then present back and produce reports back to the company. So our companies that we work with have been extremely happy about the work that's been done, some of the ideas that have been presented, and apply those within their organization. So that live business challenge is something that really speaks to how the program works. The program is meant to be very much an applied program, and a program that you use directly in your work and after you graduate as well. So I think it really has been a great experience. People really enjoy the business challenge, and as I say, our client companies really enjoy the support that they've received and information and research from the students as well. Next slide, please. I mentioned before the Master of Global Management program. That's a program that we have running at Royal Roads as well, in both blended and on-campus versions. We have created what we call our MBA MGM dual degree, where you can achieve 2 master's degrees in less time, essentially because we recognize a core set of classes that you take in both programs. We say, accounting is pretty similar whether you're doing the MGM program or the MBA program. The finance class is fairly similar across the 2 programs. A couple of other classes are fairly similar. So we can cross-recognize those classes. And if you want to complete the 2 degrees or the 2 programs, you can do that, whether you do them back to back, and complete them in a shorter period of time. It would take you, let's say, roughly, it's an extra 12 months. Once you've done one of the programs, which is how the dual degree works, you basically enroll in either MGM or MBA. You take most of the program, and then you enroll in the second program. So it takes in about 12 additional months once you've completed the first program. So say you did our 18-month MBA, pretty much completed that, then you could enroll in MGM. You would get recognition for a set of courses you've already taken in MBA towards your MGM, allowing you to complete the MGM in less time. Now, this offer, we say, is open even after you graduate. And what we find is that many of our graduates want to continue to learn. They want to continue to stretch themselves. They want to continue to engage with a cohort, with their teams. So maybe you graduate, and 2, 3, even 5 years later, you say, now I want to go back and gain, I'm got my MBA, now I'm doing more international work. I want to get that Master of Global Management. So we've had several MBAs come back several years after graduation and do their MGM. Vice versa, we've had a number of our MGM alumni who've completed the program, started working, they work for a few years in Canada or abroad, and then decide that they want to complete their MBA. And they can come back and take either the blended or the on-campus program to receive their MBA from Royal Roads. So it reduces the time, reduces the cost, so you can do the 2 programs together. So that's something that's been quite popular, and a number of students have done, as I say, both to enhance their learning, and you get the dual credential as well. Next slide, please. So in our program, because each of you are coming from different organizations, different industries, different interests, our program is a generalized program, meaning that ours is not an MBA for finance specialists or an MBA for only people interested in certain fields. Our MBA is for people who are interested across. So you're becoming a manager, you must deal with HR issues, you must deal with accounting and budget issues, you must deal with how to be a leader within your organization, with the marketing side, with all of the different aspects of the program. So we have people from all of those areas, IT, from human resources, from have an engineering background, or maybe you have working more with the supply chain. So people come with all of these different backgrounds, and then you can do a specialization. You can customize the program to fit your own interests and needs. So if I'm working with supply chain and I want to do even more in the supply chain area, then I can do a specialization that allows me to focus on that. Or I want to really enhance, I really like the leadership class. Everyone takes one leadership class in their first residency. Maybe I want to enhance my leadership and take the leadership specialization. Or management consulting. We have a management consulting option. You can become a certified management consultant. So what we've done is pair up the MBA program with both specializations that the MBA program puts on, including leadership, international specializations, as I say, either a program in France or in Asia, and our management consulting. So those are all offered within the program. Or you can go and take more than 20 graduate certificates that are available at Royal Roads. And so you can get a dual credential there as well. So I personally took the program in executive coaching at Royal Roads. So I got a graduate certificate in executive coaching. I haven't done the Royal Roads MBA, but I could do the MBA and use that executive coaching graduate certificate as my specialization. If you already have a graduate certificate, I should say, from Royal Roads, you've already done the coaching program, or you've done another master's program at Royal Roads, and you want to come back, we will recognize those credits in our program as your specialization credits. So you will already have obtained at least 9 credits that you can apply back to the MBA program. So we recognize that graduate certificate, you can do them prior to starting the MBA, or you can do them after you've started the MBA, and we have a time period in the MBA that's designed for MBA specializations, and you can take your courses at that time. And many of these, as it says, have professional designations. You can look online. So certified management consultants, there's a HR designation. I'm a certified executive coach. There's certified project manager. So there's a whole range of different professional certifications that you can gain along with the graduate certificate. So it's really a kind of multi-win thing to have this as our specialization options within our program. I think we have a couple of slides more on the specializations. So these are the ones that, as I just mentioned, within the MBA, meaning that we teach these within the MBA, they fit just within your regular sort of curriculum and the way that it works within the MBA. And we can explain that more as you come into the program. But management consulting, we have quite a large management consulting specialization. There's usually 20, 25 people within the program who get their management consulting specialization and graduate certificate within the MBA program. You then can work towards your certified management consulting designation with the CMC Canada, which is a private professional organization that grants that. And people are looking, a lot of people in our program have significant work experience and are looking to transition their careers. Leadership, again, a lot of people get very interested. Leadership, this personal growth, is a very important aspect of the program and is a very popular specialization that people complete within our program, that they want to continue to enhance their leadership, because that's a key skill within the program. And then these 2 international business options, spending a couple of weeks in Grenoble, France, learning about innovation and business management in Europe, or going to Asia Pacific. So we take a group of students and we visit companies, both Canadian companies and local companies, the embassies, learn about different support mechanisms for export development, etc., in different Asian cities. We've taken students to Shanghai, to Seoul, to Ho Chi Minh City, Taipei, Hong Kong. So we always do a couple of different cities and take a group of students. So we're hoping to be able to offer that again in 2022. We will see when travel opens up. It's quite restricted still, unfortunately. Across Royal Roads, as I say, there's over 20 graduate certificates. You can look online. If you have questions, I can talk with you. There's a number in the area of climate change and sustainability. That's a really important and popular area. There's a number in terms of things like project management, change management, coaching, human resources. These are things that are aligned again with professional organizations, and you can become then a chartered professional in human resources using your graduate certificate and your MBA to do that. So you would have to look at all the different options. There's quite a few, and students have been taking advantage and taking these graduate certificates from across the university. Next slide, please. So this is just mentioning again, if you're kind of wondering and thinking about stepping stones into the program, you want to take some classes, you want to get your feet wet. We talk a lot about, so more than half of our students don't have an undergraduate degree. So if you're one of those students, based on what we'll call flexible admissions, that they talk about in a little bit, that means that you perhaps have had a college diploma, or you've had some undergraduate coursework, but you had never finished your degree, or maybe you never did an undergraduate degree. Sometimes people come from trade certifications or other things, and now they're in managerial roles and they want to get their MBA. They need that MBA, that recognition, in order for their personal advancement, for their career advancements. That is perfectly welcome. As I say, more than half of the students in the program have followed that path, and you're able to do it. One way to sort of get your feet wet, to think about it, or to just get started on the program, even if say, I'm thinking about starting next summer, but you could take a graduate certificate now, start a graduate certificate in the near future. Most of them are offered online. Some of them have some residency components. You'd have to look at each program, but you can start that graduate certificate, you can complete it, and it's kind of a lower stress way to say, okay, I want to try this. I want to learn how the online learning management systems work. I want to see if I have time to commit to the program. Do the graduate certificate now before you start your MBA, and then we will recognize those credits, and you will basically have extra time within your MBA to work on your OMP or finish up your classes, because you will not be needing to take the specialization in the program. Or you can do what most students do, which is start the MBA, and then we have a specialization time while you do that. You can also come back as an alum. We're encouraging, as I say, a lot of people graduate, they spend a year or two and say, oh, I really want to keep learning. So we've had a number of graduates come back and do graduate certificates afterwards as well. So that's quite possible. If you're torn between two different specializations, do one and then come back next year and do the next one. So that's something that people have been doing. Next slide, please. Yeah, I'll just mention these are really meant for mostly for people who are doing these prior to coming in. We have a partnership with MITx, that's edX, the online MOOC environment offered by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology for people who are interested or working in more technical fields. And this is something that sometimes a number of international students have been able to tap into, where they're able to take these MOOC classes through MITx and gain a MicroMaster credential. And I would encourage you to look at the MITx MicroMasters website. These are programs not offered by Royal Roads, but offered by MITx. But then we recognize them as a specialization within our program. And these are offered mostly by MIT, as you know, is a very technical, engineering-focused school. So they're offered more by the engineering departments and technical departments. If that's something of interest, look at the MITx MicroMasters. They offer them in supply chain, statistics, data science, manufacturing, finance. You can choose one of those programs. You take a series of online MOOC courses and exams. And then if you pass those, you can transfer that credit to us. Next, please. Hooray, we can turn it over now to Hope Sanderson. It's always the highlight to hear from the MBA grads and hear about their experience. And many of your questions probably relate to the experience within the program. And really our graduates, I haven't taken the program, I only teach and lead in the program. So I turn it over to you, Hope, to give your experience and some of your reflections and advice to these potential incoming students. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles, and welcome, Hope. We're so excited to have you here. So we're going to jump right into the question and answer because we have so many questions for you and just want to hear your perspective.
Okay, let's go.
So our first question, and I should mention as well, if anybody has any other questions for Hope, feel welcome to pop them in the chat. Now's the time to ask them. So the first question, Hope, is tell us about yourself.
So good day, everyone. I was going to say good morning, but I don't know where in the world everyone is on time zones. So good day. And so I am an Indigenous Canadian. That's the word that we use to describe Canada's Native peoples. I am Métis, and I come to you today from the traditional territories. I live in Calgary, Alberta, so in Canada. So I come to you from the traditional territories of the treaties of the Blackfoot Confederacy and Treaty 7, and also the Métis Nation, which is my nation. And I finished, as was noted earlier, I finished my MBA at Royal Roads in 2003, so a long time ago. I was actually in the second class of the MBAs because the program had started in 2000. And so I was in the second graduating class. So that was a very long time ago, but everything is still very pertinent. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but I live in Calgary, and I've lived here for 29 years. And I've worked predominantly in the energy sector in Canada, in pipelines, oil and gas development, solar, wind, LNG, which is liquefied natural gas, just about every sector of the energy sector, every part of the energy sector. I've also worked, and I think a lot of this is contributed. The MBA contributed to this. I've also worked in the nonprofit sector and charitable sector as a CEO in the C-suite. So, and I actually remember when I started as a CEO of a national charity, probably in 2014. You know, when you work in the nonprofit sector, particularly charitable sector, it's feast or famine, and you have to wear a lot of hats. And I remember about 6 months into that position saying to myself, oh my God, I would not have been able to do this job without an MBA and without the Royal Roads MBA. You know, having the finance and the managerial accounting skill sets that I obtained in my MBA helped me be very successful in that role. And because I had to play sometimes the CFO, I didn't have the money for a CFO, Chief Financial Officer. So I had to do that. I had to prepare our financial statements to present to the board. I had to file our regulatory filings. And so I really remember saying, oh my God, I wouldn't have been able to do this job without my Royal Roads MBA. So I've had a varied career. I just left the oil and gas sector after 30 years. And I am now working with Charles at Royal Roads, and in both the MBA program this fall, I'll be working with one of our other colleagues in a global climate change program, and I'm also working with Charles on creating a brand new program in Indigenous economic development, which we think is going to be very, very we're gonna have a lot of uptake, because in Canada, the Indigenous reconciliation and advancement file is very prominent. So we're getting ahead of the curve and working with a First Nation to develop that program. So my career has taken me back to Royal Roads, and that's because my experience at Royal Roads was it became part of my DNA. I never stopped staying in touch with people. And that's because I want to just expand a little bit on what Emara said earlier, is that it's, you know, we stayed in touch as a cohort. We still do. I took 2 vacations this summer. Both of them were with different people from my MBA cohort that we finished almost 20 years ago. And I've stayed in touch with faculty and kept them apprised of, you know, what I've been doing over the years. And I was asked to come back and now teach at Royal Roads. So it's spectacular. I call Royal Roads a magical place. It's an academic Disneyland. So it's come full circle for me.
So to start at the beginning of the circle, because we've kind of done that full circle, what originally drew you to Royal Roads and the MBA? Like, what was your motivation to going to school and taking an MBA at Royal Roads?
So there were a couple key things, Emara. The first was I liked the nature of the program, and that it wasn't so rigidly structured that it didn't allow for the flexibility that Charles spoke of earlier. I'd say the program has evolved dramatically over the years. It was, you know, so while it gave us the flexibility, it was fairly structured back then. We had a 24-month period we had to finish it, and it's not like that anymore. But the flexibility that I liked was the blended program. So when I started, we started with a 21-day on-campus residency. We had a small break, and then we went into what we called our distance learning sessions or online sessions. And you know, it was kind of, you knew what your deadlines were, and there was, you know, work that had to be done, but it allowed you the flexibility, because I did mine while working full time. And so it was and the other part was really the ability to specialize. When I was, you know, looking at MBA programs, it would have been over 20 years ago. There wasn't, one of the things about Royal Roads, very innovative and very entrepreneurial and very responsive to the market. So if they saw there was a market need or a market demand for something, they created a specialization in it, and they only needed 20 learners to do that. So at that time, I specialized, my MBA specialization was in public relations and communications. And it was the only university in North America that was doing that in an MBA program. So I'm like, I'm in, right? So it was the innovation and entrepreneurial spirit, the flexibility, the adaptability. And the other part was just small campus, very, very personalized. And it just became this magical place to learn. It really was.
Thank you for that. I want to jump a bit more into, you mentioned that you were working and that you were learning. Like, how did you balance your work, your home, your school, like your family? How did you make all of that work? And do you have any tips for people in the room of when they do take the MBA, how they can balance their work, home, and school?
That was probably my biggest fear, was how much time is this going to take? And, speaking with previous learners, the guidance that they got, and if I was to go back and talk to myself now, my 20 years ago, it would be, probably exactly what I did end up doing, which was you have to compartmentalize. And I do agree with Charles. You want something done, give it to a busy person, they'll get it done, because we learn our own strategies for managing our time. Now, I'll be honest, if you're taking on a program and you're working full time, you are going to have to let some things give. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. And so you need to do that when your life allows you to do that, or you can structure your life to be able to do that. So for me, for example, I worked for a national pipeline company. So I worked all across the country. I traveled a lot. And so I had to think about, if I had assignments due, I used airplane and airport time. And when I got to the cities where I was going, I focused on, room service and getting assignments done in hotel rooms. I did that a lot. And for me also at that time, I was a very active, competitive triathlete. And so the sacrifice that I had to make, coming back to my comment about sacrifices, was I said, okay, you know what? I've been competing in triathlon for several years, and that was about my physical self. Now I'm going to go into this MBA program, and this is going to be about my mental and intellectual self. So I'm going to develop that, but I had to put the physical and the competitive racing aside so that I could develop on that. So some things will have to give, and you'll have to figure that out. And I agree with Charles as well in that, it's a selfish motivation to get into an MBA program, but you need the support of everyone around you and getting them ready for that. That's your family, that's your colleagues at work. And so you can make it work. And I think if you're drawn to an MBA, you're already of that kind of personality style that's willing to dive in and do stuff and multitask and excel. So it's just finding out that balance that you're going to need, the support you need, and what sacrifices are you going to need, because in the end, the benefits are absolutely worth the sacrifice.
Oh, thank you, Hope. And in many ways, you answered the question of how do you balance work, home, and school, but you also answered that question of what does it take to benefit from the MBA? They almost feel like one and the same. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about what it takes to benefit from the MBA?
Yeah, so one of the things that I would really encourage new learners going into the program is that take a look at the program and how it aligns with what you're currently doing or what you want to do. So for example, when I looked at the curriculum, not necessarily the curriculum, but the program outline and the different types of topics that would be covered in each course, at that time we had a very strong sustainability component in the MBA program. We actually had an entire course on sustainability. And I knew that the company that I was working for was starting to think about sustainability. And so when we started that course, just before that, I went to, the executives of my company and said, I'm going to be taking some pretty leading edge education on this coming up soon. And, I'd like to maybe be involved in helping shape this file within our company. And they were like, oh my God, for sure, let's do that, right? So it's looking ahead a little bit and saying, where can I take my learnings from Royal Roads and apply them in what I'm doing right now, or where I want to go, and how can I use this to leverage to get me there? So for the outcome and the benefit for me on that, and it wasn't just sustainability, there were so many other areas. So what I tried to do was take every Royal Roads assignment that I could from every course and say, I'm going to take this into my workplace and I'm going to use a workplace problem in this assignment. So another example was privacy legislation was still becoming very new in Canada at the time. And so we also were trying to figure out in our company how to implement privacy legislation compliance. So I did an assignment in the contract law course for the company I was working for and helping develop our privacy policy. So the benefits came back to me full throttle because I took them and used them to apply them both to help my company and to help me and selfishly move up, right? And demonstrate my competency. And I'll tell you, when I first started the MBA, the deal with my employer was they would pay half of the tuition costs, but I had to take all my time for the residencies, my vacation time. 6 months into that, in my performance review, my boss said to me, I'm noticing a dramatic transformation in you. And I think it's tied to your MBA and what you're learning. We're going to pay the whole shot. And so then it went from paying half to paying it all. And I still had to take my vacation time for the residencies. 6 months down the road, I had made such significant contributions. And we were going to Grenoble. This is when the Grenoble option first opened up. And it was, I think it cost a little bit more to go to Grenoble at the time. And so I put in an application in my company to pay for me to go to Grenoble. And they said yes. And they said, and by the way, we don't want you to take your vacation time for these residencies anymore. We're paying the whole shot. You just need to stay for 2 years after you're done. And you know what? So if you apply this properly, people will see the evolution in you. And the benefit from that for you is, so many different benefits, financially, career-wise, promotion, progression. You have to leverage it and you have to demonstrate it.
Hope, thank you so much. You shared so much insight and thank you for sharing your stories and your experience in the MBA. I don't know about everybody else in the room. If they want to give you a virtual round of applause using the reaction feature, that was incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And you'll be sticking around near the end as well. So if you have any more questions, people can pop them in the chat and we'll get to that. Thank you so much. And now I'm sure everybody in the room wants to apply. So I better jump onto the how to apply slides. Here we are, how to apply. Okay, Hope, I'm like ready to apply for the program now too. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a standard admission for the MBA. So for standard admission, it's completion of a 4-year or comparable undergraduate degree in a related field from a recognized post-secondary institution. And normally at least 7 years of full-time relevant work experience with 3 years at a management level and increasing levels of responsibility. In addition, demonstration of writing and numeracy skills to succeed in the program. This requirement can be met through prior coursework, through work experience or professional credentials, or through the completion of the Royal Roads Continuing Studies, academic writing and critical thinking, or accounting preparatory courses. So this is for standard admission. As Charles mentioned earlier, we have a lot of people who enter through our flexible admission, and that is the next slide here. So flexible admissions, to be considered for flexible admission, applicants would normally require approximately 10 years of full-time business-related work experience with a demonstration of increasing levels of responsibility and a combination of post-secondary and professional accredited qualifications. And to help you prepare for the MBA program, flexible admission applicants will normally be required to take academic writing and critical thinking and accounting through Royal Roads Continuing Studies. So in addition, there are additional courses. So they may be a condition of admission to Royal Roads. And as we mentioned in the previous slide, these courses are financial accounting and academic writing and critical thinking. If you're not sure whether or not you need to take these courses, connect with our enrollment advisors. They're currently in the chat right now, and you can also send them an email, and I'm sure they'll pop their contact information in there for you. And there's more information on the website. So there's also a potential language requirement. So English is the primary language of instruction at Royal Roads University. So if your primary language is not English, you must meet our English language requirements through one of the three ways: submission of official English language proficiency scores, graduation from a college or university, which English was the primary language, or completion of pathway program through the Global Learning and Language Center at Royal Roads University. So here are some key dates. These are also on our website too. So the website always has the most up-to-date information about key dates. But for the 18 and 31 month blended start date, it starts on January 3rd, 2022, and the application deadline is this October, October 3rd, 2021. We also have a following start date, and that is going to be in July of 2022, and the application deadline is April 25th, 2022. If you're interested in our 18-month on-campus, the application deadline for this program is February 25th, 2022. So check out the website for all of that information. So how to apply? Here we are. You're ready to apply. You heard Hope tell us her story, and you're ready. You've been thinking about it for a while, and you're ready to jump into the MBA program. So you do need to complete an online application form. It costs $126 to submit the form online. And with this online application, you do need to submit some supporting documents. All of these are outlined on the website in detail. I recently applied for a program at Royal Roads University, and what I did is I pulled up the website and I went through the application requirements and I followed it to a T, and I used it as my template for what I submitted. But here's a quick overview of the supporting documents that we expect you to submit. An official transcript. So this is a transcript of all post-secondary institutions currently or previously attended, and it does need to come directly from the registrar's office or some other recognized authority in a sealed envelope. Or with the current situation with COVID, we do accept them as well by email. In addition, you do need to submit a detailed resume. So this resume is beyond what you would submit for a job. So we want to know all about you. So you're going to include things on your resume like your education, your professional experience in detail, also demonstrating that increase in responsibility. We want to know about any voluntary unpaid work, professional membership and affiliations, and any other relevant information that you feel like we should know. In addition, you're also going to submit your personal statement, which is your why. And on our website, we have listed what we want you to answer in your personal statement. And a writing sample as well. There are 3 different types of writing samples that you can submit. Either a recent writing sample from your academic work within the last 2 years that has been assessed by an instructor. The second way you can submit a writing sample is if you don't have a recent writing sample from school, if you haven't been in school for a while or haven't taken a program, you may write a 500-word statement about what is my management and or leadership philosophy, and that is something we'll use to assess your writing. Or you may also register in the academic writing and critical thinking course. We also ask that you submit 2 letters of reference. Ideally, one reference letter should be based on work experience and the other academic performance or community service. And one quick tip for the letters of reference, I highly recommend sharing your personal statement or your statement of intent with the person writing the letter of reference so that they can understand where you're coming from and why you want to do the MBA program. Financial aid. I highly recommend reaching out to our financial aid and awards specialists. They are so knowledgeable around things like loans, awards, scholarships, and other funding. Here's all their contact information on the slide, and they're also on the website, and you can book a session with them too. And application support. As I mentioned, Kelsey and Tracy have been so helpful today in answering any questions. If more questions come up or your questions weren't answered in today's session, please connect with our knowledgeable enrollment team. Here is their information. So for enrollment advisors, if you're in Canada and a Canadian student, learn.more@royalroads.ca. If you're coming from abroad internationally, learn.more.international@royalroads.ca. And I know we're coming to the end of today's session. So And I can see that there's some questions that have popped up in the chat. So we'll go to the questions now. Completely understand if anybody has to pop off right now. I will mention that we do have a recording of the session that will be shared out afterwards as well. And Charles, I'd love to invite you back on. I know you've been monitoring the chat. Is there any questions you'd like to address?
There were a couple. I was just looking at the ones about, things like, so the ESG. So these issues, I mean, entrepreneurship, innovation, ESG, these issues, of course, are very, very present within business. We incorporate those in various ways within the program. And as I said, if you want to go deeper in those areas, we have a number of these graduate certificates that have been developed or in the process of developing currently. And so it's kind of an area to explore. We have a new, there's a graduate certificate in corporate social innovation. There's one in a new one in social finance, for example, and financing innovation ideas. And then we're working on ones in just the innovation process, design thinking, and then one in entrepreneurship. So these graduate certificates are constantly evolving and offer a number of things. The environment area, it's one that I'm very interested in. And we have at Royal Roads a strong environment program and the climate risk program as well. And there's graduate certificates that they offer in the area of climate, for example. So these are areas that you get some of in the program, and then you also have the opportunity to focus on through specializations.